event has occurred. I don't think anyone can dispute that, even if you are sitting on the atheist fence. That entity or that event that did occur, it happened in the realm of the metaphysical, which is inexplicable for us at this particular stage. So what we say is that is where we as humans, we cannot empirically identify, because science can only go so much in terms of empiricism. So what we then say, these avenues, they go into the matters of the philosophy of science. So when we look at these particular understandings, then we look at the centrality of the fact that if these past independent chain of events go on forever, we would not come hitherto into the present. So therefore, it then implies to us that a will, a conscious entity has created this universe. Because by the other plausibility, a universe from nothing is too nonsensical, because by definition nothing is the absence of everything and anything, and therefore we cannot make that conclusion that something can possibly come from nothing. Was the universe eternal, which was the prevailing understanding going back a couple of hundred years ago, and that has been now pushed aside by the fact of various advancements in science, which is always a prerequisite to understanding how a universe coming into existence 13.8 billion years ago. And then we identified the fact that, again, if we go to a past series of events, to answer your question explicitly, is that it cannot be as such, because then we would not come into the present. And furthermore, you cannot have a dependent past chain of events. So hence, it only by necessity says that the being must be independent by necessity. The universe, for example, is composed of parts. It comes together in terms of parts. But something has to be independent of those parts, which is not by necessity one which is prevaricated by that particular understanding. So hence the understanding of a universe which has been defined or coming into an existence, something independent of that has to be that which has initiated it by definition.
I'm not totally convinced by that. I still think that you haven't explained how you've talked about the infinite regression of the kind of human, natural, empirical world. But if you're able to suspend the laws of empirical nature for a supposed supernatural being, why can't somebody suspend the laws of nature and say, oh, well, the universe has always existed, or the universe came out of nothing, in the same way that believers believe that God may have done it? Why can't I apply the same principle and say, well, the universe is kind of supernatural for having this existence?
That would therefore by necessity imply some sort of consciousness and will.
Why?
Because from nothing derives nothing, and by absence of everything, hence something which has come into existence must have had a conscious will. So for example, a mobile phone is a great example. The first person, this device, when it first came into circulation, it would have had a thought process and a will behind it. If I was to hand it over to you and I say to you 60 years ago, you can speak to one person here in London, to someone living in, I don't know, Brisbane, Australia, as an example, and they will say, okay, that's fine. Who's behind all this? You would then say, okay, then by necessity, the one who made it. So you can't then ask, well, who was the person then who came before?
You can't apply that principle to anything and everything. Just because something exists, it must have a maker.
Well, you see,
this is a human invention, like a tree is not.
Yeah, precisely. But even the tree is dependent, you see. Everything in existence is dependent upon something else, which is so outside of that set. So in effect, let me explain it in a more perhaps more coherent way. Everything which is in existence is dependent. The universe in itself is dependent upon parts. So something, by definition, which is dependent upon something, then necessitates that something which has to be independent and necessary has then caused these dependent set of chain of events to occur. Otherwise, we just come into the nominal notion of an infinite regression, which absolutely makes no sense whatsoever, no matter how much philosophers try to ramble their way around it. So what we then say is that, for example, the universe could have been any other way. The fact it's this way, the sky could have been blue, or could have been green or orange. But the fact it's blue or like black at this time of night, it necessitates that something which is not within that set of dependent things has then independently made this into existence, you see. And it's a bit of a mouthful, and unfortunately this is how it really dealt.
Yeah, but you can kind of apply that law of independence to like Allah himself or any supernatural being. That again is a kind of infinite regression of dependencies if you think about it like that as well.
But then what we do, then we'll forward into that fallacy of infinite regression, you see. So then, and then I think the weightage then comes on the principality of will and consciousness. Something has willed it into existence, you see. The universe has been willed into existence.
I still don't get why. I understand the kind of independence and dependence thing, but I don't understand why you're making the assumption that there must be a conscious intention. I still don't get that logic. It seems
because if the universe has come into existence, and we know from nothing, let's try to grapple with this point. If the universe has come into existence, we know by necessity nothing is the absence of everything and anything. Hence, if something of this magnitude has come into existence, by definition, it requires something which is independent of the universe within itself. You already accepted that point. So then what we say, it then would require a conscious will. Because whatever, for example, you can argue, well, what about a computer? Or well, how about a robot with this particular actions? But those components of the robot have to be put in place in order for it to do certain actions, which are, you would say, doesn't necessitate a creator or a computer program, for example, in that same understanding. But what we then say is that the creator, by definition, then has to be, as you already accepted, independent, and by proxy, then would have to be one which has that will to exemplify, by definition, a will and a power. It comes as a part of its attributes, you see, because from nothing comes nothing. For example, you've come to this table from a particular, I'm assuming from work, you took the train or you took the car, whatever. So that was a series of actions that you performed, you see. You didn't just pop out of the blue over here. So in theory, that set of independent being, which is what we deem as a creator, is beyond the universe. Hence, by proxy, that then defines a conscious will behind something. I hope that in some way give you some sort of, because what's the other possibility? A universe which creates itself. That's the other.
You've got the burden of proof. I can't explain the origin of the universe.
Yes.
What you've got the burden of proof because you're trying to tell me what happened. All I'm saying is I don't know.
Yeah. So precisely, but then what we're saying is when we come into the matters of philosophical elements as such, this goes beyond that. So we apply then logic and reason. So I've got substantially good, although I can't prove that there is a creator beyond reasonable doubt, but what I can say, it far outweighs the possibility of the absurdity of a universe coming to existence from nothing.
Well, look, to me there's two possibilities. Either it arose out of nothing, or it has always existed. Either one is like incredible to me. Either one feels like it's impossible. And the other option of something existing outside of time and space also feels impossible to me. I mean, it's possible, but I think just because it's only as impossible as any other option doesn't mean that it's worth placing your belief in. I don't think it's more plausible than any other system.
But you see, this is where the actual scales now. We've got to take this into account. So you're saying that it's just as far-reaching to accept a creator by definition. At the same time, it's just as far outreaching to accept something which comes from nothing. Because what you can dissolve definitively for one argument, you can't for the other. Because by definition, nothing is the absence of absolutely everything and anything. And hence, from nothing, you cannot derive anything. You show me anything in existence which can come from nothing. Anything. You can't. So, but exactly. So what we're hence trying to say is that something has to be beyond the universe, which is unlike the universe. So the Quran gives a narrative of that in what Islamically is understood, the touchstone of Islamic theology, saying that, say He is Allah the One, the Self-Sufficient, the eternally besought of all. He begetteth not, neither is He begotten, and there is none like unto Him. So, I'm sure you must have been aware of that particular understanding. So, what I've seek to analyze in that particular point, to your last point, was where you get into terms of the nothing it comes into the realm of the absurd, because by definition we can negate that, because from nothing comes nothing. From nothing comes nothing. I think we can all definitively understand. So where are we left with? Like Sherlock Holmes once said, and I'll paraphrase, whatever's left over must be the truth, you see. So that is the essence, that what we believe to be a creator.
I mean, it's true, but it's just like, I don't know, I just feel like coming up with, or I know, just conceiving of something that is outside of time and is outside the realms of empirical nature is just quite an easy way out, and it's still yet to be properly explained how God exists, where God came from, and if you can't explain that, then it's just like a kind of incoherent way out of something that we'll never really be able to solve.
Well, then, if you do feel like that, then you just look at the other alternatives, as I just mentioned. Now, the other point which I mentioned is inherently absurd by saying that you can get something from nothing. That is
That's
all.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, where would you say Allah comes from?
So Allah, by definition, is eternal.
Do you not think, is that not just absurd as saying something comes from nothing to say something is totally eternal?
No, because then we necessitate all these points of consciousness and will, and the fact that why is there a universe as opposed to or why is there existence as opposed to non-existence? Why is it in that particular set way? So it's like it has to be within that set of things, you see, and it could be any other way. But the fact that it's this way, then it necessitates something independent outside of that set. I hope I gave an example. Just say you've got a box. In that box, you've got a whole dependent set of things, which is dependent upon something else, upon something else. So, but by necessity, something independent has made what is dependent within that set of things, you see, and hence it. Have you understood what I've said over there? Or,
yeah.
So I know it's like it can be like a bit taxing. I mean, in terms of this understanding. However, you got to weigh it up essentially. A universe, because we can confidently assert from nothing comes nothing. And then the other possibility that you're still grappling with, that this is also analogous to a greater, but not in essence, because then those other factors come in. You see, those philosophical points that I've made, which is what we then argue that there is, for us, is a certainty that creator does exist. So you've got the Quran. Please to have a good read. I mean, we've got lots of other further information that you're very welcome to perhaps take if you so wish. It's all free of charge, so please do so if you so wish.
Why do you give the recitation out for free and not the hadith?
So, I mean, the Quran is something which is easily accessible in terms of it being in a coherent way. Hadiths are freely available as well. The whole corpus literature, but it's huge, as you can imagine, and it's quite. But if you're interested in investigating hadith and understanding, then there's always options available for you, and I can direct you into that in any particular format if you so wish to. We'll provide it for free as well. So the hadiths are like a substantiation on the Quran. They are, in essence, they are probabilistic in nature, unless it's multiply attested. So by that proxy, we then give a sound account to the narrative of the Quran. So for example, we pray 5 times a day, as you're aware, but it doesn't tell us how to offer the prayers in a particular format or what to say in the prayers. So we're then told what to say so. And this is also not too dissimilar or not too disanalogous to the understanding of how the Jews prayed. Like for example, we believe in the Old Testament that the way we Muslims prayed was exactly to the absolute detail of how the Jews in the Old Testament prayed.
Well, it's because all the early Muslims were Jews initially.
Because the centrality of the message, my friend, has always been one. There's only one God who is unlike his creation, who has created us all. God is not a man or a woman or idol or statue. So Islam, as you know, accepts that the Jews and the Christians were referred to as people of the book, to whom revelation was given, to Moses, that which was given to him, and Jesus, upon whom be peace, that which was given to him. So we fully accept the Quran endorses that. It does also say, however, there has been some discrepancies which took place within the construct of the particular Old and New Testament that we have at the moment today. So the Quran claims to be the final verbatim word of God, which is perfect, which in essence has got no contradictions whatsoever, and itself challenges the individual to see.
So the Quranic Arabic use is abjad, right? And I'm given to understand that on a lot of the initial transcriptions, the system of notating vowels with lines and squiggles, like we use in Hebrew,
that's correct,
as well.
Yes.
It could lead to inconsistencies, and actually the excerpt from the recitation that was written in huge letters on the old, now demolished mosque in Jerusalem, is actually not present in any conventional editions of the Quran. So the fact of its notation kind of attests to the fact that it's not necessarily unaltered and unalterable, and I'd be interested whether you believe that's a case of reconciling minor mistakes, or whether you believe that those mistakes actually are not historically attestable.
No. So what we say in effect is that, if I'm correct in understanding what you said, the way the formatting of the Arabic occurred, where there were certain dots, for example, just for want of a better word, added into the text to exemplify and further make stress on a particular word, which came later on in Islamic history. However, the text and the core wordings have always been the same. There's never been any change in that whatsoever.
I mean, surely if it were the final revelation of God's word, would it not be perfect first time?
So it was perfect first time. What I'm trying to say to you.
Why would then other things be added for stress?
No, it's just so that because the Quran, when the Quran was sent forth to different parts of the world, linguistically, you see, people had different ways of communicating or speaking, or their speeches were different. So you would get, for example, someone in North Africa, a Bedouin, who would have a different dialect compared to someone who would be, just say, for example, in Yemen or Iraq or whatever. So in order to necessitate that, they added these little, for example, dots in just to exemplify it. And just for example, you've got the word noon, Arabic word noon. So it would have a dot on the inside just to highlight the significance of that. So it was just for that, what you call utterance. But the Arabic has always remained the same in its whole linguistical form and its whole literal form as well. So I'm still not sure where you're saying it's being changed. If you can, unless you can give me a specific example of where it's been changed.
I don't know the verse, but I know that I can't give you a specific example.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, the one I gave on the old mosque in Jerusalem, I know that was a passage that was sufficiently different to the other person. I did speak to someone about this when sorry, I'm tired. So I used to live around here.
I think probably we were talking about ahruf.
Yes.
So you had a mode of recitation, right?
Yeah.
So for example, when Prophet was receiving revelation, so there are other tribes. They're saying, why is only coming from Quraysh tribe, your own tribe?
Yeah.
Give us on our dialect as well, so that it is easier. So in earlier generation, it was done for facilitation of memorization. And Allah sent a verse in the Quran to confirm it. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. I have made Quran easy for remembrance. Why? So that it can facilitate them, facilitate us, and facilitate all over the world. And those modes of recitation are approved by Prophet himself.
I don't think he's talking about the modes. He's more referring onto the actual construct of the.
Are you talking about construct or mode?
I think it's to do with the
Ahruf, but that would be recited.
Yeah,
that would be
that's what I am explaining.
Okay.
So for example,
Well, so there's no. I mean, sorry, go on, Karen.
Yes.
Someone I spoke about this with someone and they said it was to do with that.
So basically, we read a chapter called Surah Al-Fatiha, which means opening. So every day we read at least 17 times. And where, if you go any mosque in UK, we say Maliki Yawmiddin. But if you go to Maghrib, like Morocco, they say Maliki Yawmiddin, which is a slightly different mode. But we know that mode also approved by Prophet, and this mode also approved by Prophet. So these are the differences of Qira'at are approved. You know, it's not like different
Totally
versions.
different message, precisely.
You see, so it's not a different master. It's not saying here Malik means king, and another and the meaning of Malik is king. So king and owner, right? So both are supplementary meaning. It's actually give a wider meaning to the audience, because Allah's book is litubayyin. Allah Prophet explained it. This recital mode, and we have the greatest one of the greatest sciences of Islam is the chain of transmission of the Quran. I can exactly trace back, like I have memorized of the Quran in my family, and they know who their teacher, and all the way go back to the Prophet without any breaking of the chain. And we have a science is called Ilm al-Rijal. have the chain of those people, and we know their character, how they live and eat. So this Quran has gone through a serious care, and it has been recited with care. That's why, and as one example will be sufficient. One example, and the example will be, let's pick 10 children from different parts of the world, and we put them in a different room, and we'll ask them to recite whole Quran, and we record it, and then none of them see no one, and then when we play that together, it's the same Quran. What does it tell you? The transmission happened all the way through all parts is the same. That shows that we preserve. Otherwise, you will find, okay, someone is reading something, and some parts in other parts is reading something else. So that shows.
Does that make sense, what you're saying?
It does, but that doesn't mean that's all include it having been standardised, say, 600 years ago, to the point where people now just learn the same way. Like if people could learn Shakespeare by heart now, teaching to 10 people around the world.
Shakespeare's heart doesn't talk about the way of all life. It talks about Allah, heaven, and hellfire. So we go by with the claim. Our books it's a religious books, it claims something. Other books go through a different, but it doesn't objectify or tell us what is the purpose. But Quran is the only book. You will find every other chapter or in the beginning, it always tell us that this is a book from your Lord. And why many times, remember every other chapter, Allah said, Hamim, Yasin, Wal Quran al Hakim. This is the revelation from the All-Wise. Why Allah is stressing? So straight away, whoever the reading,
I don't see the objection of the standardization. I really can't. Even if I wanted to see your objection to it, I can't really. You still.
Sorry, brother
No,
Mustafa,
that's fine.
carried
That's
away.
very good. No, but you did an excellent job, mashallah.
The fact that people now know the same Quran doesn't mean that it has always been exactly the same.
Well, we've
I'm
got.
just saying that it might have been standardised at some point.
So we've got even today manuscripts, as you may well be aware, which are prevalent in the Birmingham University. Okay, those which were written at the time of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, over 1400 years ago, which has been verified and testified. So that is the sufficient evidence within itself, those recent scripts which were found, and they've been testified, as I said, at that university. It's got all the necessary, as the brother said, made mention, the lineage of the Qiraat, or where it came from in terms of its ascendancy from one generation to the other. So hence, it leaves you in no doubt whatsoever that the Quran, if you read it in any part of the world, whether you're in Morocco or Indonesia or in, I don't know, in the Arctic or down in South Africa, it will always be correctly pronounced and correctly recited. There is no difference in variation in terms of what is being said. It's like, for example, if you speak English in a Scottish dialect, you're going to find it a little bit inconspicuous into what the Scots are saying. But if you read it in English, if I speak just like normal upper class, say I spoke posh English, that would be that different. This is what you call different modes of saying something. So I still can't understand this objection.
In the Quran, I think there was a few verses, Allah is talking about that how Prophet is memorizing the Quran. Why God has to tell in the book why he is memorizing. What's the important in there? Shows that what is the mode of recitation. Because the word Quran means something to be recited. In order to preserve something which is to be recited, must be preserved too. Do you see that? It's not a book, it's a book also, it's a book form, but the Quran actually is something to be recited. If something is recited, Allah saying to his messenger and his companion, Inna rabbaka ya'lam anta rabbaka min sulusai al-layli wa nisfahu wa sulusahu wa ta'ifatun min alladhina ma'ak. Allah knows that you and your companion standing in the night by remembering God, by reciting Quran. And that is how the earlier generation practiced Quran. This teaching them, then imagine I am, for analogy's sake, I am Prophet's companion and I have learned from him. And it's not like one person he taught, 1,000 he taught. And he asked them, okay, recite me back. And then when he realized that person is memorized the way and understood, then he said, I give you permission so that you can teach someone. And this is called, we call isnad. Sanad, certification. So sanad did not just come, okay, do whatever you can. It has some validification, which is through you memorize well, you understood well. and then you can talk well. And this is how we have this mutawatir transmission, mass transmission. Even we know there's one hadith. Umar ibn al-Khattab was in Salah with Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, one of the companions, and the guy was reciting Surah Furqan, one of the chapter 25 of Furqan, who is reciting. And after Salah finished, Umar ibn al-Khattab dragged Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman and take him to the Prophet. And he said, I heard Surah Al-Furqan he was reciting in a different mode. And then Prophet asked both of them to recite. And he said, both of them are valid. What does it tell you? Even the validification by Prophet himself. So the approval of Quran recitation on the Prophet. Until and unless, I mean, if I say I wanted to deny it, I need to have an objective criteria. Okay, this is where we feel this is what missing. This is what should have been done, and this is what we think. There is no valid reason for Quran to be de-recognized, basically.
And obviously, we haven't mentioned even the oral traditions. The fact that it's memorized, by, as you'll be aware, by millions of people, even at the age of 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So that's been repetitive through Islamic history as well. So that's always a point of to counter, an Orientalist who may have an objection to that, because it's always been, already recited, and hence this is the beauty of it.
Yeah. And Allah constantly mentioned there are many. Allah said, "Walakin aksara an-nasi la ya'lamun." So when the majority of the people don't know, Allah talking about the phenomenon that every human being are aware, because you have given this ultimate faculty of tools of reasoning. And then when Allah said, if you don't believe me, I am the creator, show me the God that you are worshiping, what they created. So Quran is full of direct engagement of human being, because it addresses direct to your fitra, your innate understanding, your cognitive understanding. The moment you open it, you can straight away connect with it. It's not like a fairy tale book. They call it Asatirul Awwalin. Yeah. But, like I said, objectively, Brother Mustafa, I'm sure you have explained it. So objectively, I mean, Quran makes the claim is from God. God said, I will preserve the book which we can objectively see. And through evidences that we can see is preserved.
May I ask what's compelled you to look at this?
Right. So this is the biggest evidence for someone to accept Islam. And I would say, my brother, make some dua, like prayer.
Fantastic.
Allah guide me to. I mean, look.
I grew up around here.
Yeah.
Bengali So I went East London all the time as a kid.
Okay. So, have you heard the recitation of the Quran?
Yeah. So I went to mosque all the time, almost every day for a period.
I would say to make things very easy.
And then,
is that it's perspective. There is a greater.
I never really believed in
So God is not a man.
to be honest. It never really did much for me.
Then by necessity.
Well, I love.
God expects us to do
It kind of makes me feel something, but it doesn't make me intellectually. I always thought I don't really believe in it. As much as I kind of enjoy community, I enjoy elements of Salah. I just never really believed in it, to be honest.
No, I think, like belief and disbelief, both of the things based on the surroundings, how you live your life, who you interact with, who you hang out with. So belief actually has an influence, or disbelief has an influence, both cases.
I also think surely if Allah wanted everybody to kind of, surely a kind of benign, all-loving God would create a world where some people are not heavily influenced to believe and some people are totally disinfluenced.
So,
surely that's not fair.
So this is a question has been answered by God himself in the Quran. Right. Allah said, if I could have make all entire community as a believer. In another place,
surely he can,
no, but the reason why he wanted to test you, that's why he didn't. He mentioned in the Quran specifically that if I wanted, I can make everyone as a believer community. Okay. And Allah said, I could put something on your chin that you will compel to believe. But yet, through the wisdom of God, He wanted to, this was the initial plan to test you. That's why Allah left some of them believe, but Allah given everybody, every human soul with the tools of reasoning and all this evidence and hujjah, the books that you cannot deny. And so whoever go to the heaven or hell, it will be based on their own action.
Yes.
Do you see?
I don't know, but just because you're given the tools of reasoning doesn't mean you're going to be led to believe. He also, like, Allah also gave us things.
I agree. Do you know why? I agree. Allah said,
Ability.
Allah said the guidance in the hand of God.
Okay. I don't think we're hardwired to like be reasonable about the supernatural.
No, I think within ourselves we have a lot of things we cannot, like for example, we have a soul.
Yeah.
You cannot examine soul. You don't know how much weight of the soul, right?
We don't. Well, do we have a soul?
Yeah, I mean, what's the difference between a dead man and an alive man?
The fact they're breathing.
Correct. So that's soul. So Allah said, you know, this is a question asked in the Quran. Allah said, Allah mentioned in the Quran in Surah Al-Isra, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. They ask you, O Prophet, what is ruh? And then Prophet, do you know what Prophet said? Prophet received the revelation. He said, قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. This is a command of God, but mankind was given a very little amount of knowledge. So look, these questions and answered has been given in the revelation. And Allah said, if whoever chose to believe, whoever chooses to be guided, he needs to make his own action. Because Allah given you this free will. Allah said, Inna hadaynahu sabila imma shakira wa imma kafur. Allah shown you two ways, whether you chose to be guided or not.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you could say that, but like when you take a massive country like Vietnam, which is 99% Buddhist, aka like atheist agnostic, and then a country like Sudan, it's like 100% Muslim and everyone believes. Surely that just shows like the disbalance of reasoning. I mean, you can say that everybody should be able to reason. The fact that it's so stark, some people are so clearly acculturated belief, some people are so clearly not.
I think that will make sense if you only believe in this. That will make no sense if you only believe in this world. But our belief is a comprehensive belief. Believe in this world and believe in the hereafter. Not a human soul, not a single human soul will receive its ultimate justice in this world. No human soul can say, I will receive absolute justice in this world, either by rewarding or punishment in both cases. So therefore, by default, the world will not make sense if there is no day of judgment. And Quran is appealing, Allah is telling, do you think this life is just a game and you think you die and you be disintegrated? I will bring you back through the very tips of the finger. Bala qadirina ala an nusawwiya banana. I will bring you back so that I can do the judgment. Now imagine if you say someone didn't receive the message, God will test them on the day of judgment. So our Prophet told us that many of them will not receive the message in this world, but they will be tested on the day of judgment. So not everybody will receive guidance here. But if the evidence and the reason, and Allah knows how much knowledge you have, or knowledge information everyone have, to judge. That's why the judgment is only in the hand of God. Why? Because Allah, the Creator, exactly knows how much knowledge every soul already received.
So why would a world be created where some people don't get the message? And he's happy, and like someone, why would an all-powerful God create a world where, as you say, some people only judge on the day of judgment because they didn't have the knowledge in their own life?
So, question is, Allah created and He has the knowledge. No human being was given the knowledge why He created like that. Now, question is, things does not comprehend our mind does not make it incorrect. I'll tell you why. Now, imagine if someone born with difficulties and he has a tough life. Let's take an extreme scenario. And after life, Allah will recompense it. Then will that balance it or not?
It depends.
No, imagine you've been tested in this life. Tested with hunger, thirst, but yet you remember God. And then after death, you will find the reality that what God promised, there is heaven and hellfire. And Allah placed you in the heaven. Would you not win it? You already won it. Exactly. So the whole question is, rather than what Allah's purpose is, we would question that, can I question about his wisdom? Or even if he explained to you and me his wisdom, do we have this capability to understand God?
Do you not think it's a good thing to try and reason with faith though? Like surely if you're kind of answering with, purpose is unknowable.
No, I'm not saying unknowable, it's knowable. God communicated this message through the Quran. And he given you enough evidence to believe in the Quran, so that you accept it. Just like you accept the testimony of your friends and family based on their truthfulness, the same way Allah is sending prophets and messenger with validity and their truthfulness, their miraculous activity and their acceptable activity, that will makes you acceptable to you. And that once you apply that criteria, then the realm of unseen cannot be known. Because if I say I wanted to see God, first of all, we need to look at ourselves. Even if God there, do I have the vision that can see God? And that's why Allah said, "La tudrikul absar wala that no vision can grasp him." Why is that? Because we are incapable. We have a limitation. You see, so the question here is, we sometimes look at those answer in an anthropomorphic way, means we think that God should think our way. I'll give you an example. If 20 people speak to you, will you be able to hear 20 people point?
20 people?
Yeah, 20 people speak to you at the same time. Will you be able to hear and concentrate and respond at a time? No. Now look at the Creator, Allah. Allah created millions of people, billions of people, right?
Yeah.
The same time, the same certain second, people is dying when some places, some people are born, some people are talking, and Creator is full control and full knowing and all aware, and he's fully aware of everything. Nothing is hidden.
If I had 20 people in front of me, I might not be able to understand it immediately, but through analysis and research and empirical study, I might be able to then.
No, but then again, I think then
you can apply that to anything that you see.
No, that would be changing the goalpost. With due respect.
That's what we do as humans. We research, we find things out, we work on stuff. We change the goalpost as much as we can.
So therefore, whenever you say I'm going to do that, you have to rely on other tools. Then again, when the other tools was given by who? Allah, the Creator. So therefore, even if the tools that you're going to apply, it is also given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the maker. No.
But when you start applying the tools, you have to go in with the assumption.
No assumption.
That you're ready, at least not to.
No.
Go on the assumption.
No. With all due respect, I think changing the goalpost. If you look at initially what we have been agreed, that if the Quran brings compelling evidence, how you deal your life daily based on testimony. Testimony is one of the biggest things we apply day to day. Everything we do pretty much. The vast amount of knowledge we apply in our daily life is testimony. We heard, we follow. The Quran comes, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes with proof and evidence, just like other messengers. So the claim is very simple. I mean, I cannot comprehend, or I force myself not to believe. Nobody can help. Like Allah saying, do you not see the sun? The sign is within you. When you see the sun, how big the sun is, the star, the galaxy, these are the sign of God, so that you can connect with the God. It's very simple. This Allah mentioned in the Quran that can this creation come by itself, or did it come from nothing, or did it created by someone else? By default, do you?
Massive question.
No, this is in the Quran. Can I get a copy of the Quran? Can you open it for me? I'll show you this. Allah asking that question. Do you live around here? Yeah. I'm sure you've got lots of Muslim friends, right? Okay. Let me show you where.
Doing particular laws, which one punishes for, which is absolutely absurd, isn't it? Because carrying out something.
So the way that I read about it was
here. Allah saying, "Am khuliqu min ghayri shay'in am hul khaliqun am khalaqus samawati wal ardi bal la yuqinun." or were they created by nothing, or were they the creator of themselves?
Yeah.
Or did they create the heavens and the earth? Rather, they are not certain. So Allah is talking about this. Allah is talking about, can something come from nothing? Can something create itself? And then Allah talking about that the reality that the heavens and the earth exist. And Allah is saying, those who are rejecting it, they are uncertain in their mind. So Allah is not talking about now the evidences, is talking about the phenomena or the state of a human being who is rejecting it. Allah is talking about the uncertainty. And uncertainty in another place in Quran mentioned as conjecture, zan. People will have their desire was forced to disbelieve on an objective truth. So Allah said, Allah will guide you, one who open heart and mind, and who looks it. And Allah said, Inna Allah la yahdil qawma zalimin. Allah does not guide the one who's zalimun, who's make injustice against. Means he goes against to the evident truth, even when the truth has become clear, and he force the truth in order to perceive the desire or follow the desire.
Feels like, I don't know, you're kind of implying that it's bad that people would ever question their faith.
No, I'm saying Quran, if you read out the Quran, it's intellectually stimulating, it connect with you, it answer your questions.
It doesn't attest
It
the
is.
existence of God.
Sorry.
Just because
Allah said, no human being can answer this question. And I'm giving you this intellectual.
That's true, yeah.
No, because it's like,
I know that.
exactly. So now the reality exists, I exist, and what is my purpose? Quranic principle is most logical than anything else. You cannot find a better model out there to challenge Islam.
Philosophical naturalism.
No, philosophical naturalism, all about guesswork, all about thinking philosophical jargon in the mind. And there are books has been written. You can read one of the Islamic scholar called Imam al-Ghazali. He wrote a book called Incoherence of Philosophy. He dealt with the philosophers' proposition and how philosophy has the issues. Right. So Islamic, scholars, our mashayikhs, all the knowledgeable people have dealt all this issue. And Quran actually dealing with this issue as well. Like,
What do they say about philosophical naturalism?
what do you mean by philosophical naturalism? First place, your understanding.
Why is that? Philosophical naturalism.
Your understanding, because everyone has their own understanding.
It's how would I put it? I mean, it's essentially the belief that all natural phenomena can only be observed back to their original causes, and that any perception of supernatural without concrete evidence is unhelpful.
Right.
So basically anything can be explained through
Okay.
explanation.
There are philosophers in Islam, Muslim philosophers,
Yeah.
non-Muslim philosophers, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at their proposition, what they had to say about existence of God, we need to understand the reason they are applying is beyond the realm of human understanding. We applying a scenario that, okay, what is the first cause?
How are they
What,
applying it?
yeah, how
Beyond their understanding.
beyond, like for example, logic, right? It goes through logic. It's not about empiricism, because you cannot have an empirical evidence. You can present it nowadays. No human being would say, okay, I know about what empirically, because you are not present and you didn't take the photograph at that time.
Yeah.
So all of those philosophical naturalism or whatever model are there, it's all about speculating, okay, these are the best idea.
Yeah.
But the Islamic religion, the purpose, it comes with evidence that you can evaluate yourself. You can look at the claim, you can look at the testimony, you can look at 124,000 prophets. How come they came in different time, but how come their messages align? How come they doing some sort of supernatural thing that community witnessed? Sometimes
they came from the same sort of tribe, from the same part of the world.
no, they come from the same sources, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What you are saying, some source, that means you are assuming a belief and you force upon that belief to make that statement. Do you see the problem?
I don't think so.
No, you did. Because if you say same tribe, where does that tribe come from? If you tell me which tribe, this 102.
It all comes from, like...
They didn't come from just
2000
natural.
BC Judea.
No, they come in different times and they come in different continent. And people have witnessed it. History.
They're all from the Adamic... What prophets haven't come from the Adamic tradition?
So Adam is the first man. And God sent prophets and messenger in different times. Now, they didn't just say, I am God's messenger and believe in me. No. The community asked, prove me, show us something. It's a massive, bold claim. We don't want to believe like that. Your good character is not enough. Show us some. And then those messenger and prophet shows the miracle. Community witness it. It's not possible in a normal law. Our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's Dalalun Nabuwa, the evidence of his prophethood has been recorded. There's many miracles, physical miracle, companion witnessed it. Now we have an intellectual miracle in present of us. Any side of angle, you cannot reject the book. I mean, it's hard to disbelieve Islamic Islam, very hard. You have to seriously fight with your nafs to disbelieve.
I think everything I perceive around me is explicable without supernatural being. I think it would take a lot of thinking for me to change that, and I don't think the miracles are like that historically testable.
Yes.
We know that there are a lot of people claiming miracles from false messiahs from all across.
Yeah. So that's why how do we know the false and truth? We have the objective criteria. Like for example, Joseph Smith, false prophet. How do we know he's a false prophet? Because he made the claim and then his claim didn't come true. When the world will be end, he made 7 or 8 times, said this world will be end, this world will be end, this particular time, and his prophecy has been failed. But if you look at other way around, Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, all of the prophecy he said, all of them truth. Now if someone whose character is amazing, all of the prophecy come to be true, Quran is miracle, no one can produce it, the book has been preserved, how much evidence someone else need? I do not know, I cannot fathom it. Honestly, I cannot fathom it. What evidence, what further evidence required? It's too much evidence. Anyway, I would, like I said, belief is my brother. It's all about whether you take it, comprehend it, take some time. And I ask you to read it sincerely. I believe you are a sincere brother. May Allah guide you to Islam, Look after yourself, yeah? It was a pleasure talking to you anyway. Thank you. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. May Allah guide him to Islam. Assalamu alaikum.